Every so often, there's a game that comes through that surprises you. For me, that was Lost in Random. I'm excited to bring you a little behind the scenes on how the combat works, because one of the more interesting aspects of this game, one of the areas that stands out to me really about this game compared to other games in the genre, is its combat system. On the surface, it's a card battle system with a simple dice rolling mechanic that didn't seem interesting at all from a distance. The story intrigued me, the characters intrigued me, the developer intrigued me. Zoink Games is notorious for making excellent content. Stick It to the Man is one of my all-time favorite adventure games. But something about Lost in Random concerned me. So when I picked it up recently, I got a chance to try it on. I was cautiously optimistic, but had a little bit of concern, thinking, perhaps this wouldn't be for me. Card battle has never been my style. I've only really clicked with one other game, and it wasn't something that I loved. But after getting my hands on it and playing about 4 hours of the game, getting into some more complex battles and things like that, the simple system that they've come up with is kind of ingenious. I wouldn't call it flawless. Some of the aiming mechanics are a little rough. The graphics, while at times absolutely are stunning, have technical shortcomings that I think a first-time three-dimensional developer at this level has. But I will say that the central mechanics of the game for the combat soar far above what I was expecting. So what I want to do is take this time to just break down some of the central concepts of that combat and why I think that's so enjoyable and exciting. First, you and your the main character, Even, is partnered with a dice. This little character called Dicey, super cute, just a dice that has missing dots and can only roll 1s and 2s at the beginning. But that dice has power. Dicey, when you roll him, will allow you to have a certain amount of actions you can take while the game is frozen. So you'll roll the dice, it'll freeze time, and it will allow you to pick from certain actions. So if you roll a 2, then you'll get 2 actions out of that, and you'll have a deck of cards that appear. That is the basic concept of that. What makes it more interesting is that the central combat is actually in real time. So you'll be fighting these creatures that may be flying or maybe walking with swords or guns or something like that, and they'll be coming at you quite slowly. It's not a crazy action-paced game, but you have to shoot these crystals off of them that will power up and unlock these cards that will be handed into your deck. So the whole time you're trying to kind of aim at these little crystals that are on the character's body that will then unlock your opportunity to play these cards. The only way you play these cards is by rolling the dice, which you can do at any time. There's no limitations there. And that will grant you how many turns you get as a response to that. So you generally have about 5 cards once you fully power up your deck. And then you can play those based upon the rolls that you have. Some cards are going to be buffs, where they make certain things more powerful, or maybe certain things damage an enemy that wouldn't traditionally, things like that. You can spawn swords or bows and all kinds of cool bombs and weird effects. But by layering these things on top of each other, it creates this interesting balance of like build up and payoff and build up and payoff. What I think works particularly well in all of this is that the characters are so interestingly laid out. They don't just throw you in to a never-ending spawn of enemies. They also throw wrinkles into the mix. Occasionally, your battle field, which generally is in these arena-style settings, will have a board game piece. And that board game piece will move to different spaces on this board according to how far your roll gets you. So if you roll 2, it'll move 2 spaces. If you roll a 1, it'll roll 1 space. Sometimes you'll have cards that can modify that. But the idea is that if you can get that piece to the end of the board by going ahead and rolling dice and defeating enemies that may block that piece's way, then you can get to the end and accomplish your goal. I think that so far, that is an intriguing enough concept and basic system that really has blown me away. So besides the fact that the world is impeccably crafted and the story is zoink top tier writing and characters, you add on top of that a surprise in the battle system. The battle system is super interesting, super unique. It doesn't feel like a card game, even though you're still building decks and you're still playing cards to result your actions. Because the moment you play a sword card, that sword spawns into your hand, and then you have the opportunity to get like an advantage and hit an enemy while they're not looking. You can use a charge attack and get them on their heels and things like that. So not only does it have that real-time action that I crave in most games, but it also has that kind of like stop, slow down, set up your plan of attack, and then do those things. So instead of looking at it like a card game, it's almost like you're looking at it like a move set in Final Fantasy or something like that, where you're building up mana in order to utilize super special magical attacks or something like that. And those cards are your magical attacks. And without them, you're basically extremely vulnerable. She has no basic attack. She has no way to hurt an enemy outside of just shooting a little pebble at them to knock off those crystals. So once you build up enough crystals, you play those cards and you can hit them with a bunch of different combinations. Now, if you play those cards in specific orders, you're going to get the most out of that potential turn. Maybe you have a card that lowers the value or the cost of the rest of the cards that are remaining in your hand. Maybe you have a card that will add an extra point to allow you to play more cards. Maybe you have a card that's free, but it adds a shield. It's just defensive. Or maybe there's healing cards that you have to sprinkle in there. Some of it's random, some of it's chance, but all of it is super creative and interesting. And I gotta say, Lost in Random has just surprised me. I think it's a really solid game, completely worth checking out. And if you haven't gotten a chance to get your hands on it, please go check it out. Don't be dissuaded just because it's EA. Zoink Games are the people behind it. You can still feel their heart is in this game and that they have a lot of support now. And I can't wait to see what this studio does next. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like the content, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications. We really appreciate you guys. It's amazing to kind of build this community and spend some time and share my thoughts, and hopefully you guys agree. And if you don't, go ahead and leave that in the comments, or if you do, leave that in the comments. I'd love to hear your experience with this game and what you think, because it definitely was not what I expected, but I'm pleasantly surprised. Thank you again, and as always, stay classy, coders.